This is a big year for Kane Lewis. The real world is knocking on this college student's door. Awaiting him are challenges. There's the coronavirus pandemic, a trade war with China, and you can't forget about Mother Nature.
Well, it was kind of a wet year to start out with. Definitely different. We plant mostly floodplain ground, but I was able to, actually do all the planting and most of the spraying this year. So that's the biggest thing for me with this planting season, was to prove to myself that I can do it by myself. No one else needs to be around. I'm independent. I'm 20 years old and I can still do things.
He plans on taking over the family corn and soybean business. And while he says it's been difficult, there's nothing else he'd rather do.
Especially now, some days it's hard, getting out of bed and just kind of pushing on. But when you wake up and you see that you're doing good, you're doing what your ancestors have done, you're following in your family's footsteps, it is like the most rewarding thing ever. It just makes everything a little bit slower, but not impossible. That's exactly what it makes it. It makes it harder, but not impossible. And that's how you got to look at life. Is stuff might be hard, but it's not possible.
The story could have ended here. Kane shifts the tractor into gear and gets to work. Short and sweet. But you may have noticed the disabled outdoorsman hat he's wearing, and the chair set to the back of his truck. Let's go back for a minute.
November 16th, 2019. I woke up any morning going bow hunting down at the farm. I got into the tree stand, I was hunting, everything seemed to be normal. Deer was moving. I thought I was gonna, bag a big whitetail that day. And then I woke up on the ground. I kind of realized that my legs weren't working, and I was kind of scared. So my phone it fell away from me, so I kind of just broke off some sticks and flipped my body over and kind of used them to pull myself to get my phone. Once I was able to get my phone, the only person I called was my dad, because he was the one who helped me, hang the stand. He was the one who knows the land. I just called him, and then I remember just blacking out. I don't remember much, of that day, the rest of the day. After surgery 2 days later on November 18th, I woke up to all my family and friends, around me, telling me that I'll be paralyzed the rest of my life. And as a 19-year-old kid, that's a big pill to swallow. And you see both my parents and all my family members devastated. But the biggest thing in my mind was, all right, it happened to me. Now, how am I going to react? How am I going to, go back to my normal life?
Well, for starters, he bagged a buck, caught a fish, and as you've already seen, got back to farming. He did it with the help of assistive technology provided by Opportunities for Ohioans with Disabilities and Agribility, an organization that assists counselors to understand the needs a disabled farmer may have.
Kane has been positive from the start. I can't think of a more positive client that I have worked with. When I first met him, he had just gotten out of the hospital. He absolutely said, I want to do this, I want to do everything, and we said, well, we want to make sure that you're doing it the safest way possible.
Farming is rooted in family legacy, and despite the odds, Kane is proving that this legacy won't end with his father, or maybe even himself.
Especially with my dad being a farmer, growing up and watching him, I always thought he was invincible. And so I want that to be the same with my kids. Growing up, I want them to be a sixth-generation farmer, and they look at me that like I can do anything too. I want to be. They think that I am that strong, independent guy who they always look up to. So that's my main goal, is they're going to take over the farm once I am gone. That's my goal. So
for Spectrum News, I'm Chuck Ringwald. 19-year-old Shamar Johnson is harvesting eggplant from a 3-acre garden in the middle of East Cleveland.
What I like about agriculture is you can be outside in nature and you can grow your own food and you don't have to worry about it being too dirty or rotten or, I don't know, tainted with.
It's something he never imagined he'd be exposed to.
Flamingos gave me the opportunity to try something new, and it actually motivated me to become a gardener and to pursue agriculture.
The Flamingos Foundation works throughout Cleveland, revitalizing neighborhoods, creating affordable housing, and providing social services like urban agriculture.
You got some herbs in here as well.
Like the basil.
Erica Burnett is the Director of Community Building and Engagement. She's also a mentor to Shamar.
What if you didn't have a grocery store? What if trucks stopped moving, delivering food to the grocery stores that you have access to? What would you do? How would you be self-sufficient? So this is one way of creating a model that is self-sufficient, that they can do themselves, they can learn a skill, they can take this skill wherever they want. If they choose a path of getting income from this, they can do that. If they want to do it as a hobby, they can do that. But they at least know that they can do something to grow in their own backyard, in a community garden. There's something they can do to provide food for them and their families.
Just last month, Flamingos was awarded a first-of-its-kind grant from the USDA. Burnett says they'll use that money to teach agriculture to K through 8th grade students at the Stonebrook Michael R. White CMSD campus in the spring. As for Shamar, the program is inspiring him to turn his newfound love into a career.
In the future, I want agriculture to take me as far as it can. I want to have my own land, my own farm, and use agriculture to my advantage, helping people in my community, because there's not a lot of cultivators in the world or in my city.
For Spectrum News, I'm Chuck Ringwald. The goats are quick to sneak up on you at Harrison Farm. Making sure they're well taken care of is Catherine Harrison. She owns and operates the 76-acre farm just south of Columbus in Groveport.
So this is one of our newborn lambs, and my family has raised sheep as long as we can record in our history. And I am the 5th generation of my family to work on this particular farm. We raise sheep, goats, and chickens, and also have laying ducks, meat rabbits, and honeybees.
Harrison is part of a growing trend. According to a report by the Ohio State University Extension, the rate of women running farms more than doubled from 10 to 21% between 2002 and 2017.
Being a farmer is absolutely amazing. It is the most wonderful and challenging career in which you can engage. And I am very, very blessed to be a farmer. This is my heart and soul. I love doing it. Of course, anything that you put your mind to doing, you can do, regardless of your gender. And I feel very fortunate to be a woman in farming, especially looking at the future generation of women that are entering into agriculture and seeing all the wonderful possibilities that will help shape the future of farming.
Right now, she's hoping the next 2 years are better than the last. The weather affected her crop harvest, prices fell due to the trade war, a genetic disorder wiped out some of her sheep, and then the pandemic hit.
This has been a very unique year at the farm, and some of the goats that you're seeing right now are those that we call our special needs group. They are animals that have needed some extra help, some extra nutrition along the way, and I'm actually really proud of how they're coming along and recovering from a difficult year, which is, I am hopeful, a good parallel for how the farm may be able to recover as well.
Before this, Harrison spent years as a teacher. She worked as a butcher and even a wedding planner. But it's farming that she enjoys the most. She treats these animals like their family and calls most by name.
This is Maria Von Trapp the goat, and she has made a very poor life choice. She is absolutely convinced that the grass on the other side of the fence is obviously greener, and so she has stuck her head through the fence, but has forgotten how she did that. My days are often dictated by the needs of the animals, so I may have something completely otherwise planned, And then an issue like this happens, and we stop what we're doing to make sure that we help the animal. There you go.
As Harrison continues the day's to-do list, and whatever else these animals may throw at her, she reflects on her family and the support of her hero.
I feel incredibly fortunate to be a woman in agriculture. I was raised in a very traditional way, but I was fortunate that my grandfather truly believed that an individual could do whatever they put their mind to doing, and he believed it was important to have skills. So even though I was a girl, he thought it was just as important that I learn how to drive a tractor as I learned how to cook and bake.
And it's that perspective that empowered her to achieve her dream and become a role model for women looking to do the same. For Spectrum News, I'm Chuck Ringwald.
Definitely been hard, different, and fun.
Meet Mason Jolliffe. The 11-year-old from Hardin County says the last month has been interesting. He's faced the same challenges many of us have and found creative ways to navigate the time at home. One of Mason's favorite hobbies is showing cattle, specifically his heifer Gia. But like many other events, their shows have been canceled.
They have spent months and months and months working with their livestock, caring for their animals, and really just putting a lot of energy into agriculture. And so they take all of this energy, it's built up for March, and March is that's kind of the end of this season of showing, and the coronavirus has, due to the limitations, has really shut down what the kids do.
But he's found a way to stay engaged, combining his love of showing cattle with a school art project. Gia recently needed a haircut, so Mason used her clippings to create a miniature Gia.
There is a wire frame under this with chicken wire for the belly, and it's basically just glued hair.
We're blessed with an art teacher who said, Mason, you build whatever you want to build, use creativity. He was able to say, I love livestock, I love cattle, I love clipping cattle. And so he was able to tie those pieces together and do an art project and have a teacher who valued that.
You don't have to be at school, but you still have to do your work.
Turning a necessary chore into a one-of-a-kind piece of art. For Spectrum News, I'm Chuck Ringwald.
I'm guessing it weighs 1,550 pounds.
Robert Liggett knows a thing or two about pumpkins. Just listen to him talk about them.
That you can have a seed about the size of your thumbnail, and it can produce something that potentially is going to be a ton or 2,000 pounds plus. We've not been able to get that in Circleville yet, but this year there's another grower that has one that may actually get to be 2,000 pounds.
And a pumpkin that size requires a lot of water, at least 90 gallons every day.
It's sort of like feeding your kids. You know, you don't feed your kids once a week. They do much better if you feed them every day.
And just like your children at bedtime, they do better when you tuck them in, too.
The ideal would be to have a king-size fitted sheet. These are queens, so we have to use 2.
The sheets protect the pumpkin from the wind. It's part of his method, one that's paid off. He's placed in at least 13 of the last 28 pumpkin shows. And he's already looking to the future, taking samples of his soil and testing it before planting. And while this year's show was canceled, he'll still compete at a weigh-in at the Pickaway County Fairgrounds.
It's just hard to do something that everybody appreciates and quit, you know. I think everybody comes to see the large pumpkins, and it's just fun to grow them. And it's fun to show them off at the pumpkin show and talk to the visitors that come. It's just, you know, it's an exciting thing.
For Spectrum News, I'm Chuck Ringwald.